Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight for how to create an all-electric home. This is the second online talk in our three-part series, Let's Electrify Yarra. I'm Mel Miller-Yule, and I'm a Sustainability Officer at Yarra City Council. I'm joining you tonight from the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. Yarra City Council acknowledges the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people as the traditional owners and true sovereigns of the land now known as Yarra. We also acknowledge the significant contributions made by other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people to the life in Yarra. We pay our respects to elders from all nations, past, present, and future. Before we begin tonight, a bit about using Zoom. Tonight's session is being recorded. Your microphone and video are turned off. We'll have time for questions after we hear from our three presenters. So you can pop your questions in the Q&A throughout the discussions, and we'll read them out to be answered during the Q&A time. Feel free to share links or other useful information in the chat. And all the links that you see on the screen during the presentation will be shared by email at the end of the session. Tonight, we're going to hear from Tamara DiMattina, founder of the New Joneses, and Tamara will host the conversation tonight. We'll also hear from Nick Aberley, who's an all-electric homeowner and Yarra resident, and Lachlan Hensey, who's a community energy project officer at the Metro Community Powerhub. So I'd like to begin tonight by telling you a little bit about what we're doing in the city of Yarra. Yarra Council was one of the first councils to declare a climate emergency, and we've committed to acting on it through our climate emergency plan. We know that the climate emergency is an enormous challenge that requires action at all levels. When we're talking about going all electric, this includes everything from strong policy action at state and federal levels to facilitate a rapid transition away from gas, through to all of us taking climate action as individuals to create all electric renewable powered homes. We're advocating to other levels of government for stronger climate action, including accelerating to 100% renewable grid supplied electricity and a fast transition away from gas. Last year, Yarra Council made a submission to the Victorian Government on the Gas Substitution Roadmap consultation paper. The Victorian Government is developing the Gas Substitution Roadmap as a strategic policy framework for decarbonising natural gas in Victoria. All of Council's electricity needs are already powered by 100% renewable energy through a combination of solar on 38 Council buildings and a 100% renewable electricity plan through the Melbourne Renewable Energy Project. And now we're transitioning our buildings to all electric. We've electrified 10 council-operated small buildings and another 10 are in progress. By 2030, all of our buildings will be all electric. And our fleet will be all electric and powered by renewable energy by 2025. We're supporting the community to go renewable, use less energy, and take climate action to create a 100% renewable City of Yarra together. So to do this, we've partnered with the Metro Community Powerhub to support you with free energy advice and connections with pre-vetted suppliers of quality electric appliances and quality discounted solar. We've recently launched our new Take Climate Action online hub, which has lots of resources about installing solar, going all electric, switching to 100% green power plans, and lots more. And we regularly hold events like this and the rest of the Let's Electrify Yarra series. You can watch recordings of our past events at our Take Climate Action online hub, including the first of the Let's Electrify Yarra series, which was Why Create an All-Electric Home. So what exactly is an all-electric home? It's a home where all of the appliances are powered by electricity and not gas. Gas is a fossil fuel, and just like other fossil fuels, it emits greenhouse gases that contribute to a hotter planet. So by switching to electric appliances, we can power our homes with renewable energy. We're really only talking about switching 3 appliances when we talk about all electric homes: heating, hot water, and cooking. By switching these 3 appliances, you can create a home that can be completely powered by renewable energy through solar, a battery, a 100% green power electricity plan, or a combination of these. And if you add in an electric vehicle, whether an electric car, bike, or scooter, then you can power your transport needs with renewable energy as well. So our speakers tonight will have a lot more to say about how you can create an all-electric home, including how the Metro Community Power Hub can support you. And now I would like to introduce Tamara DiMattina. Tamara has been creating award-winning campaigns to simplify climate action for a decade. She's the founder of Buy Nothing New Month and the New Joneses, a multi-award-winning living pop-up installation that embodies the principles of stylish, waste-free, conscious, sustainable living, the first of its kind in the world. Tamara's mission is taking green from mung bean to mainstream. And in 2021, the New Joneses pivoted to an electric vehicle-powered road trip and created a 10-part digital documentary series showcasing 10 ways to take climate action. Over to you, Tamara.
Thank you very much, Mel. It's lovely to be here, and thank you everyone for coming tonight. I'm going to be doing a lot of asking the questions because I'm not an expert in any of these things. I'm just someone like you. I want to lighten my footprint in all areas, which is why I've created the New Joneses. We are on a mission to find out all the things that we can all do in our homes and our daily lives and share that info with everyone else. So together, with as a groundswell of humans, we can all take the climate action in our homes that we need to protect and preserve our beautiful life on this beautiful planet. So I would love, firstly, for all of you to, when you can, maybe write it down now, but go and visit thenewjoneses.com. Everything we do is free. We're just wanting to share the easy, everyday stuff that we can all do, from changing your bank, changing your energy company, changing your super, all of those things that we can all do to cut out the carbon in our daily lives. But I'm very excited to be here as part of this session because in season 1 of the New Joneses, we visited James Alston in his amazing all-electric home. He and his partner, Georgia Costello, in their beautiful all-electric home in Tasmania, which is Tasmania itself is powered by 100% renewable energy. So I'm excited to invite Mel to share that video in a second. But I would love all of you, if you're interested in switching your homes from getting off gas and going into an all-electric, what an amazing, important step to take, but to look at all the other steps that the New Joneses are promoting. We've got this very simple way. There's a checklist. You can just print it off, stick it on your fridge. Some of them are free, some of them are easy, some of them are a bit more challenging, but do it with a partner, with a friend, with a family, or at school. We want everyone downloading that list and doing the things. But one of the things on that list is to go to an all-electric home. So I think that's probably a good spot to ask Mel to cue the clip so we can see what a beautiful all-electric home actually looks like. And this is coming to us from beautiful Tasmania. Hit it, Mel.
So what am I doing in Tasmania?
Well, beautiful Tasmania is now powered by 100% renewable energy. I am taking you to meet fabulous James and Georgia. They have built a house that is 100% all electric.
Okay.
Which means there's no fossil fuels powering it. The reason it is great to have an all electric home in Tasmania is when all your power is coming from 100% renewable sources. It means literally to power their whole home, they've left fossil fuels behind. God, I love Tasmania.
Oh, I loved it first.
How beautiful is it?
Keep my body rolling, Rahia, Rahia.
James Alston, interview take 1.
Who are you and why am I interviewing you?
My name is James Alston and I'm the Managing Director of New Energy Ventures.
Where am I?
You're at my house.
What am I doing here?
I live in an all-electric home in Tassie.
What is an all-electric home?
An all-electric home is a home which only uses electricity for its energy supply. So in a typical all-electric home, you'll have solar panels providing a fair chunk of the energy that you use in your home. We have electric hot water, so we have a heat pump hot water system. Yep. You're going to have an induction cooktop to...
Delivery for James Alston.
Oh yeah, the book from Alice. Yeah. Sorry, where was I? You're going to have an electric induction cooktop, and we have a reverse cycle air conditioner, which means that we can heat and cool our home with the same piece of kit.
Why are the homes of the future all electric?
I think it's really the only viable option that we have to decarbonise homes quickly in Australia.
Can you explain, like, decarbonise? What's that?
So to decarbonise basically means that you're not using fossil fuels. So you're not using gas and you're not using coal, you're not using oil or petrol or something like that. Your energy supply is electricity.
What's wrong with gas?
Yeah, gas kind of sucks. Gas is a fossil fuel, and we don't have a good viable replacement for it. And for a long time, people thought about gas as being the efficient way of heating your water or the efficient way of cooking your food. It's just no longer true. It's just technology is advanced and we've got better options now.
Bills, money. What are your electricity bills like?
So much cheaper. Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
This is a large four bedroom home. We heat our home with electricity. We heat all of our water with electricity, and we still only have a bill about $1,200 a year, which is nothing. And we have an electric car, so most of our transport and also running the home.
I'm a mainlander. Back there, if you're in an all-electric home and you're still drawing fossil fuels, what's the point?
It's a good question. If you're living in Victoria, most of your power is coming from coal-fired power stations right now. But the clear trend is we're moving towards a decarbonised electricity supply. So that means that all the coal-fired power stations are going to close in the next 20 years or so. And we're going to be getting all of our power in Victoria and other parts of Australia from wind and solar and other forms of renewables.
Nat and I live in apartments. If I can't retrofit and remove gas sources, what's one thing that I can do?
Move to an energy company that's supporting the energy transition and investing in renewables.
We're here in Tassie, 100% renewable energy. How does that work?
Yeah, as of about 6 months ago, the government declared that we're 100% renewable energy.
What is renewable energy? I know solar, I know wind, what else?
Yeah, so in Tassie, most of our electricity comes from hydro. Yep. So about, I think it's about 80% of it comes from hydro. And the bulk of the rest of it comes from wind. We've got a target here in Tassie, not just to be 100% renewable energy, but 200% renewable energy.
200% by 2040, is that right?
200% by 2040. Yeah, we're going to be building a new cable to the mainland. There's a technology called HVDC transmission, which is high voltage direct current. It's a bit technical, but we've got one of those in Australia right now, which is Basslink, which is the cable that connects Tassie to the mainland.
You got AC, DC, HVDC. Sounds pretty bloody rock and roll to me.
It's really awesome.
And getting back to your house, you've got solar panels on the roof, but you're still connected to the grid, right?
Yes.
So how does that work?
We're using the grid as a battery, essentially. So instead of having our own battery here, we're using the grid to basically export our energy into, and then later in the day, we'll draw energy out of it. The solar panels produce about a third of the electricity that we use in our home. The rest of it gets pumped into the grid and it gets used by others down the street.
And then at night when the sun goes down, you then start to draw?
Yeah, we're using hydro at night. So yeah, we have some storage in this house though. So we have our hot water system, in the middle of the day, that hot water system turns on. It's using solar power to generate hot water. And then we store that energy until the evening when we'll have showers and baths in the evening. The same with our electric car. We fill the electric car with electricity through the day, and then we're able to use that later in the day. This home is an example of what the future looks like. It's got solar power, it's all electric. We drive an electric car. This is something that really needs to be showcased and help people understand that it's not that scary to live in the future. Australia just is accelerating at a rapid rate of knots towards renewable energy. And I think you'll find that most of the energy industry is as excited about the transition as I am. Obviously there's a handful of people out there that own a bunch of coal assets which aren't particularly excited about the future because they're not going to be able to dig them out of the ground. But most people get it in the energy industry.
The atmosphere here is electric.
Thanks, Tamara.
Thanks, Mel.
We can see you again.
Am I going to introduce Nick, Mel, or are you?
No, I can introduce Nick now. Thanks so much, Tamara. That was great. It was really great to see the video of James' all-electric home. I'm just going to turn my video on again, speaking of video. Yeah, thanks so much. That was really great to hear about what the new Joneses is doing. And now I'd like to introduce Nick, and Tamara is going to have a bit of a conversation with Nick about his all-electric home. So Nick is a Yarra resident who has lived in an all-electric 7.4-star house for the past 7 years. While he is here in a personal capacity tonight, he has also spent the last decade working on energy and climate policy. Currently as a policy director at the Clean Energy Council and previously as campaigns manager at Environment Victoria, where he led campaigns to encourage the state government to implement policies to shift households from gas to electric appliances.
Over to me. So Nick, thank you so much for coming tonight. We were going to have you go through, but I think Mel explained really well what actually is an all-electric home. We've then had the video showing it. Would you like to do a quick recap or just a snapshot elevator pitch for anyone who still doesn't get what is actually an all-electric home?
Yeah, I mean, I think that video really nailed it. James is spot on. And I think one thing I'd emphasize is that it's really not that different. An all-electric home looks like a home, right? In a residential setting, there's only three things that you use gas for, and that's hot water, cooking, and heating. And so being in an all-electric home is very, very, very similar to being in a gas home. You just have an induction cooktop, electric hot water, and electric heating. Like there's no particular rocket science to it at all. So it's all straightforward. I mean, you've got to get your head around the different, when you're buying the appliances, I suppose there's a bit of research that you'd want to do to get your head around the pros and cons of spending more or spending less. But yeah, I mean, the video nailed it. There's not much more to it, really. It's actually quite simple.
Great, I think so. And one thing that we didn't go into in the video that James actually went into extensively afterwards is that pancakes cooked on an induction and no gas cooktop are much far superior.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen quotes from people in the gas industry, and one of their websites literally says that cooking with gas is guaranteed to make your food taste better. Like, how do they get away with saying that? That is just obvious garbage. And I've heard that a lot of chefs actually prefer induction because of the precision that you can get in the temperature control. So, yep. I mean, obviously we've got an induction cooktop, and I can choose any number setting between 1 and 15, and then there's like a turbo function if you want to boil some water. And in that 1 to 15, you can just pick whatever number you want. It's like, oh, 9's a little bit hot right now. I'm just going to drop it down to 7. But like, I've cooked at my parents' place as well. I mean, I don't use gas cooking very often. It's only if I'm at like someone else's house or something like that. And now gas cooktops just feel so clunky. It's like full ball or like down really low, and you're like trying to turn the nozzle.
It's interesting that you raised the hospitality side, because this is getting off topic a little bit, but I remember it might have been about 15 years ago when I was doing PR in hospitality, and Jeff Lindsay, who's one of the best restaurateurs, one of the best chefs in Melbourne, took me into their kitchen. This was at Pearl, which is one of the best restaurants in Melbourne. And he showed me their induction stoves, and he said it had totally changed the kitchen, because the gas and what they had before, the kitchen was hot, loud, sweaty, angry. And he said now it's quiet, it's calm, and it's cool. Yeah. So even just from that very unexpected benefit, that really was a big eye-opener for me.
Yeah, and it also means a lot less stress in terms of letting my kids do some cooking. I mean, obviously the saucepans are still very hot, so, don't touch the saucepans. But there's no naked flame. So I've got a couple of primary school age kids, and it all just seems like a lot lower risk when they're.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I often come back into my house because I still have gas. I try not to use it much. I'm in an apartment, and the changeover is tricky because it's an old building. But I have just one of those electric sandwich makers. So I use that now for so much of my cooking instead of even using my gas stove. But the idea of I come back into the apartment often after I've run out, because I'm aware, did I turn the gas off or is it on a little bit? So yeah, even those bits that are totally unrelated to climate change, that are the health and the safety benefits, are really important.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's get started with your experience, Nick. What type of home did you have in the first place? Did you have to retrofit significantly? Did you were you starting with a pretty new home, or talk us through what your house looked like before?
Yeah. I mean, we had the advantage of building from scratch, and that does make it a little bit easier, just because you've got a blank slate, and it means you can build exactly what you want, how you want. So it is a bit more difficult when you're retrofitting, but also, I mean, one of the key moments for electrifying is when you're replacing. Like, if you've got a perfectly functioning gas cooktop or a gas hot water, you might not want to replace it. But one thing I would suggest is that if you do your research now, so that when that appliance does conk out, you're ready to replace it quickly with an electric one. So yeah, we were building from scratch, which is fairly rare opportunity, I think, these days in Yarra. And the decision, like, we always wanted to go all electric for a bunch of the reasons that James mentioned in that video, that it's the only way of making your house carbon neutral essentially. And I mean, we have solar panels, not heaps, only 3.5 kilowatts, which is, pretty small these days. And we've got a massive gum tree on our northwest that kind of kills our solar output from about 2 p.m. But it just wasn't that difficult. And I've got some slides of the different appliances.
I think that'd be great. Walk us through. Firstly, what are the 3 appliances that you wanted us to consider when we're looking at? You talked about hot water, cooking, and heating.
Yeah. So hang on.
So then we're going to go through the reverse cycle aircon, the heat pumps, and electric hot water systems.
Yeah. So this is my hot water system, just like everyone else's. It's just sort of, down the back of the courtyard, shoved away behind some trellising. And, there's just a big water tank that keeps the hot water. And then it's just this little unit on the side of it, which is basically just an air conditioning unit. Like it really is just that. So electric heat pump, which is what this is, it's not electric hot water, it's an electric heat pump. And the way it works is that the small unit, the smaller of the two, not the big tank, it essentially works like reverse cycle air conditioner, where it just runs a fan and it just does a heat exchange, sucking the heat out of the air and transferring that heat into the water, which is how your fridge works, how an air conditioner or a reverse cycle air conditioner works. And that's it. It just kind of sits there and does its thing, similar to what James said in the video. We've got it set for its main cycle to run at midday, which is when our solar panels are cranking out their most output. So that's just sort of it. And it just sits there and does the thing, it's sort of set and forget hot water. We've never run out. My daughters are not yet teenagers, so maybe it hasn't been fully tested, but they're definitely taking longer and longer showers, and we've never run out of hot water. So I think, it's doing a good job.
You said something there that confused me a little. You said it's not electric hot water, it's a reverse cycle heat pump.
So, I mean, we used to have, so for example, we used to have like gas boosted electric, where the electric was sort of doing the main thing, and then you might have a gas booster. And this is heat pump hot water, which is a bit different from the old version of electric hot water. Where the old electric hot water was a bit more like a giant kettle, whereas this is using that heat exchange technology of the heat pump, which just makes it heaps more energy efficient, because the heat is coming not directly from the electricity, but it's coming from the air. Like it's literally a heat exchange between the air and the water. It's not that new, but a lot of plumbers still aren't aware of what this is. I actually had a problem with this one with our heat pump a couple of years ago, where this, you can see, I don't know if you can see my mouse on the screen, but the panel on top of this, the heating unit, I'd unscrewed it and I'd taken it off to access the control panel, and I didn't put it back on properly. And then a gecko had snuck through the crack that I'd left and actually fritzed itself on the control panel and killed it. So it needed to be replaced. So if you get yourself heat pump hot water, don't put things back on properly, because otherwise geckos can get in and break it. Yeah, but when I was calling plumbers to replace it, they were like, "Well, what's your hot water?" It's like, "It's a heat pump." It's like, "Yeah, but is it gas or electricity?" And I was like, "Well, it's electricity, but it's not electric. It's electric heat pump." It's like, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about, man." It's like, whoa. So first flag, if a plumber that you call doesn't know what heat pump hot water is, just hang up and find another plumber. Is my tip.
I think that's really good advice. This is something that we came up against with the new Joneses a few years ago, working with some people in the building industry, saying it's quite common. People will want to put these new, whatever it may be, what the climate action that they want to take in their home, but the tradies aren't necessarily up to speed. So keep looking until you find someone. I know even for myself, I had someone come in. I wanted to replace all my lighting with the most energy efficient lighting available. And that was literally the brief. And I went off to work, and the guy came back and he said, "Oh yeah, no, I didn't do that. I got these because they were cheaper," and just stayed with halogen or whatever. And I was furious, because it was literally, that was my brief.
Yeah.
I think that's really important for us all to know. just because we know it and we assume that they are going to be able to do the right thing. Yeah, as you say, find someone else who knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not a handyman kind of guy, and I expect tradies to know more than I do. And
That's what I mean. They don't necessarily.
Yeah, they don't necessarily.
Yeah.
So I'll just keep going through this. These are our heaters. So we've got a 2-story house, bedrooms are downstairs, open plan, kitchen, living, dining upstairs. And downstairs, we just have these electric panels. So we've got a couple of different sizes, depending on the size of the room. And these are really nice. They're not actually the most energy efficient. Like I'll show a graph later that shows some of our energy consumption. So these aren't super efficient. Like, they're not bad, but they're not crazy efficient. But they do produce a really lovely heat. And so, like, in your bedroom, it's completely silent, and it's just a lovely sort of radiant heat. So we have them downstairs, and then the only heater we got upstairs is the reverse cycle air conditioner, just one for the whole upstairs. Occasionally on a really cold night, it gets cold if you're like at the far end of the upstairs from it. But I mean, we also did it, I mean, again, with the luxury of designing a house from scratch, we did a pretty good job of incorporating passive solar elements. So our upstairs tends to stay pretty warm in winter anyway, just because we get a lot of good north-facing sun.
So this here, Nick, this is like, this is not if you're having reverse cycle, using your reverse cycle aircon to heat. This is just a straight an electric heater.
Oh, so the two on the top are just straight electric heaters. That's just a resistive panel.
Yep.
But the one that we have upstairs, so the bottom photo is just a reverse cycle air conditioner. Yep. So that, I mean, you know, lots of people.
That one's more energy efficient. The reverse cycle is more energy efficient, but doesn't give that lovely heat that you're talking about.
Yeah, that's right. So the reverse cycle air conditioner is super efficient from an energy perspective. Like, you get way, I mean, similar to the heat, it operates like a heat pump, and it's sucking the unit outside is sucking the heat out of the air. Even if it's cold outside, it's still, you know, if it's above absolute zero, there's still officially heat in the air. So, you know, it can be 2 degrees outside, but there's still heat to be converted or to be transferred inside. And the reverse cycle air conditioner is very energy efficient, and it does a very good job heating our largish upstairs space. It's not as nice, the heat, because it is basically just hot air blowing at you. Yeah. But it, you know, trade-offs.
That's right. Speaking of trade-offs, this is a question, you sort of touched on this a little bit, but if I have I already have the bad stuff, would you recommend, I know you suggested waiting until they break, but if you're really passionate and very driven, is there, as far as the trade-off, you've got stuff that's still working, do you keep it until it breaks, or do you trade it out? Like, get rid of the gas stove and try to put in induction? What would you?
Yeah, I mean, I think with gas heating, there probably is a pretty good opportunity to replace before you know, if you've got a, I can't remember what it's called now, like a, you know, central gas heating
or something.
Yeah, you could probably take that out. I mean, the truth is that 70% of the gas that you use in your home is for space heating. Cooking is a tiny fraction. Cooking is like 2%, and then hot water is the other, you know, 25-30%. So if there's only one thing that you're going to replace because you want to get off gas, you get a lot more bang for your buck replacing a gas heater with electric heaters.
Okay.
Hot water appliances are the ones where you tend to make a snap decision. Like, my hot water system is busted and I want hot water today or tomorrow. That's the one where you're going to have to make a quick decision. And if you want to replace it, or if you wait until it conks out naturally, you still want to have done your research so that when you're calling the plumber, you know what you want.
I think that's really good advice. One more question on that. If I was to get off gas, do I keep it supply? Is there part of you that you keep the supply connected to your house in case, or you cut it off and then you're done?
Yeah, so because we were building from scratch, we never had to deal with that. So we just never had a gas connection. If you don't have any gas appliances, I'm pretty sure you can just get Gemini or whoever your gas retailer is to come, or gas network provider, to come and remove the meter. But again, you know, if you want to replace your heating and your hot water, and then you're using bugger all gas in your cooktop, so you can keep using that, but then you're still paying $300 for your gas connection every year just for the opportunity to cook with it.
Yep.
Cool. And then I'll just flip to the last one. So this is a induction cooktop. The pic on the top left, as you can see, we've got like this little perspex cover for it. Again, learn from our mistakes. The glass surface is pretty robust, but it is not unbreakable. And if you accidentally drop a saucepan from height onto it, you will break the glass. So that was a mistake that we made. So don't do that. And so we've now got this little perspex cover that we just leave over it whenever it's not in use, just to protect it.
And that just comes from the manufacturer. That's just easy to get from, or the retailer.
No, that's a thing that we got from Bunnings. We just went to Bunnings and got a bit of perspex and put some little felt pads around the edges. So that is not, that's a DIY self-invention thing.
Good on you. If anyone wants to order one of those from Nick, I think you're taking orders.
Actually, it was my father-in-law. I can't claim it. So he's the engineer. So it was his handiwork.
Very good.
And then the picture on the right, I mean, you know, it's just the saucepan on a stove. There's not much to it. I included this just to show the little dial pad down the bottom. So it's just like all just finger touch sensitive. You know, there's a button to turn it on. There's a button to choose the temperature for the 4 different hot plates. That's kind of it. I mean, I said that when I've cooked with, like, since having the induction cooktop, when I've cooked with gas at other people's places, I said just how clunky it is. Another thing that I love about this is how easy it is to clean. Like, you spill a bit of food, I remember how you have to like take the stupid rack off and you're wiping around the hobs, and it's just like it feels pretty old fashioned to me now. Now it's just like wipe.
Yeah, very
done. Yeah. So that's pretty much it in terms of my photos. Oh, hang on, no, I had one more.
We're going to go through a little bit of the bills as well, and then I was going to ask you quickly before we have to jump onto Lachlan. You touched on some of the pitfalls, i.e. don't let a gecko fall in, and don't juggle your pots from a height over the induction. But if you wanted to touch on some of the other pitfalls or things for us to avoid or look out for if we're going on this all-electric journey?
To be honest, I can't really think of any other pitfalls. I mean, they were the only 2 instances where we've had any problems.
And knowing your tradie, I guess, finding a trade. Yeah,
knowing your tradie. I mean, there's a bunch of different options with the heating, I suppose. You know, whether you go reverse cycle or whether you go with some of the electric panels, for example. With the induction cooktops, you can spend anywhere from $300 to about $10,000. I don't really think you need to spend $10,000 on a cooktop. Ours, I think, was $1,200, maybe something like that. And so these are our power bills. So I did a quick Google earlier today to see what the average Melbourne electricity bill is, so annual. So it's about $1,100 a year. I could only find my 3 most recent, and they add up to whatever that is, 700, 800. There will be another one. So this is, I mean, you can see the August bill is by far the biggest, and you can see from the usage profile that most of our electricity consumption happens in winter months, obviously when we're heating. You know, shoulder seasons, a couple of hundred, but our summer electricity bills are bugger all. And the other thing to factor in is we don't have a gas bill, right? So even though our electricity bill is similar to an average Melbourne home, we have 0 gas bill. So that's, you know, if a Melbourne average is $1,500 for a gas bill, that's we don't pay that.
Yeah, fantastic. That's wonderful, Nick. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking us through. And I've certainly learnt a lot. Certainly the bill side of it, that's enticing. But I think also we didn't even touch on the health of not having the gas to cooktop, etc. But
yeah, I mean, to be honest, that wasn't a motivator at the time, just because we didn't know about it. It was just like, well, we did it for climate change reasons, and a lot of the childhood asthma stuff that's come out in the papers in the last couple of years, we didn't know about until we saw it in the papers. It's like, oh, score.
Yeah, I feel like that would be something that would help a lot of people make that decision once it's really a very direct impact to their kids' health.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Nick, and congratulations on your amazing all-electric home.
Yeah, all good. Like I said, I mean, it's just sort of normal for us now. There's nothing fancy about it. It's just a home.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nick, and thank you so much, Tamara, for the really fascinating conversation. It was great to see the photos and hear all about your home. And next we have Lachlan Hensey from the Metro Community Powerhub. The Metro Community Powerhub is funded by Sustainability Victoria on behalf of the Victorian Government as Melbourne's first community power hub. It's led by the not-for-profit, the Yarra Energy Foundation, and it's a one-stop shop working to support, develop, and deliver locally owned, cost-effective renewable energy projects. Yarra residents and other residents of Metro Melbourne can get free energy advice through the Metro Community Power Hub, and the Metro Power Hub can connect you with pre-vetted suppliers of efficient electric appliances and quality discounted solar. And Lachlan is a community energy project officer at the Yarra Energy Foundation, where he provides tailored energy advice to households across Melbourne and develops community-led energy projects through the Metro Community Power Hub. Lachlan is dedicated to supporting community involvement in Australia's clean energy transition. So I'll hand over to Tamara and Lachlan for the next bit of conversation.
Thank you very much, Mel. Lachlan, hi, welcome.
Hi, Tamara. Thank you.
It's great to have you here and all your expertise. So I think Mel touched on this, but take us through. So what is the Metro Community Power Hub?
So the Metro Community Power Hub, actually I might share my screen. That might help us along.
Right.
So the Metro Community Power Hub is essentially an association of climate action groups, councils, and led by Yarra Energy Foundation, as Mel said. And our goal is to cultivate interest in community energy projects, to build capacity, to develop and deliver energy projects, and really just help people to transition to an all-electric home. So here we go. And it's really interesting seeing the ideas that come from the community and the ways that people are looking to integrate clean energy into the urban environment, which is something that's a particular challenge. I guess in the regions, there's a bit more land, you have more scope for more infrastructural projects, but in metropolitan Melbourne, we're really focused on not just the household level, but things we can do in urban contexts, and the all-electric home is a key part of that.
Fantastic. Tell me, so if I bring up the Metro Community Power Hub, what services can you offer me? How can you support me to go all electric in my home?
Well, first of all, we're quite a small team, so if you call up, you're almost guaranteed to speak to me.
Perfect.
And I'm up for a chat, but I'm very keen to help provide advice around billing, accessing renewable energy through a retailer, as well as the interventions you can make in your home to make it more energy efficient, and advice on particular products like solar and heat pumps, reverse cycle air conditioners, and induction cooktops.
So is it more like, it's like an advisory service? Will you come out to my home and look at what I've got and make advice or make suggestions from there, or it's a phone up service where you can talk me through what to do? Or
so the Metro Community Power Hub itself, you'll engage with us primarily over the phone, but as Mel said, we run a solar and all-electric home program whereby we connect you with trusted installers. These are partners that we've had ongoing relationships with over the past couple of years. So we have, positive working relationship with them. And we can provide that initial guidance about what might suit you in your particular situation. And we can connect you with those organizations who are then able to provide free, no obligation quotes. They might be indicative quotes, but in many cases, it's not necessary to do a site visit for something like solar. The technology we have available now means that we can sort of map where solar panels go, we can understand shading from afar. There may be some site-specific factors that play into that, but that might just be taking a photo of your switchboard so that we know that there's available space there for the sort of circuits you might want to put in, for instance, for an induction cooktop. So it's, I guess, a combined advisory service, but our ultimate goal is to help people progress their journey towards a solar all-electric home.
Great. So would you say is the difference between the Metro Community Power Hub and say other solar or appliance companies, you're recommending the trusted ones that you've got an ongoing relationship with? So it's almost like you've done that work to find who are we're not going to be ending up with a fly-by-night, or it's quite that's really the point of difference?
Yeah, exactly. So we have negotiated up to 20% off standard pricing for solar, but personally, I don't have any skin in the game. I'm not a salesperson. It's not my bag. So my priorities are emissions reductions, cost savings, and what's most appropriate for your circumstance. So the solar providers are, they're engaged in that work. They want to help you with their installation, but obviously they're a business. We can provide that oversight. We can follow up on your behalf if there's any kind of issues with communication, or if you'd like, if they give you a quote and you'd like us to look over it, we can advise what's suitable, and if you think they might be overquoting. I've actually never experienced that. I've never had someone say, "Oh, what do you think of this quote?" And I've said, "Oh, you don't quite need that much." In general, our recommendation with solar is to fill your roof within your budget. There's a number of reasons for that. I don't think we have time for that, but actually, if you get in touch, then I'll be able to chat about the rationale behind that and some more of the rationale behind going all electric, if that's what you'd like to chat about.
Fantastic. Last question. It might be a little bit confusing with it being associated with the Yarra Energy Foundation. Is it for anyone across Melbourne or across Victoria?
Yeah, so the project is led by Yarra Energy Foundation, but our scope is across all of metropolitan Melbourne. So we've been supporting people in Wyndham, in Frankston. Occasionally we get calls from outside metropolitan Melbourne, and I'm still happy to help. But our focus is certainly across the metropolitan Melbourne area.
Fantastic. Now, I think we are running out of time, but you did touch on this a little bit. You suggested, as far as how many solar panels would you recommend, you'd say cover the roof. Depending on the size of your roof, like what would you say most people would be looking at as far as what should they budget?
So I think it's probably advisable to say, with the solar panels that are produced now, you can have solar panels that are 400 watts. It's typical to go for at least 5 kilowatts in terms of the total system size. Often people go up to 6.6 kilowatts. Don't be too concerned about the grid connection limits your export to 5 kilowatts. It's very rare that you'd be exporting anywhere near that, at least in the City Power network. That's what the limit is. But the main reason to size up is that in the early part of the day, in the later part of the day, and through much of winter, your solar system is not going to be generating anywhere near 100%. So if you have a 5 kilowatt system and it's generating at 50%, it's only generating 2.5 kilowatts of power. So in the middle of winter, you might not be anywhere near 50%. So if you'd like to continue running your reverse cycle split system for heating, for your heat pump hot water, the bigger your system is, then the more headroom you have to do that, and you won't be drawing from the grid in those times. And it also helps in summer, in the later part of the day. The house might still be really hot. If it's 6 p.m. and you've got a slightly oversized system, well, I wouldn't say oversized, but you've got a capacious system, then you're going to be generating enough power that you can run your air conditioner into the evening before the sun goes down. And you can really max out your generation so that when the sun does go down, the house isn't still too warm.
Very good. And rough cost for those who wouldn't have a budget in mind for at least a 5 kilowatt system?
Rough cost. So it does depend on the brands of panel that you choose and a few site-specific factors. I do actually have a slide here on pricing that does give some rough costs. If I can find it, that's always the right. So obviously this is really ballpark figures. These are from solarquotes.com.au. I would say the Metro Community Power Hubs providers are probably around the midpoint in that. They're providing some really high quality products, but doing so at a pretty reasonable price. So for a 5 kilowatt system, it also depends on whether you're able to access the Solar Victoria rebate and no interest loan. So depending on if you fit into the eligibility criteria, the Solar Victoria rebate is $1,400 upfront discount. And then there's also a $1,400 no interest loan, which you pay back over 4 years, essentially using the cost savings on your energy bills. So that could be $2,800 off the upfront cost. There's also a federal government rebate scheme, which is essentially built into the quotes as a point of sale discount. But for a 5 kilowatt system, yeah, I think you'd be looking at about $6,000. And the Solar Victoria rebate would pull that down under $5,000.
Fantastic. I'm going to get in trouble now, Lachlan, because I've taken us over time, but thank you so much. That was fantastic. I think Mel's going to open us up for Q&A if we had some questions coming through on the chat.
Yes, thank you very much, Lachlan, for all of that information. And thank you so much, Tamara. And we'll now open it up for Q&A. And we do have several questions here, but I might be a bit cheeky and ask Lachlan if you could just quickly, if you have any brief advice for people who have smaller roofs, just because we know that many roofs in Yarra only have space for a 3 to 4 kilowatt system. What would you do if you could just briefly give us what advice you have for those with a smaller roof space?
I would say if there are no other barriers than roof size, then don't let it worry you. Just go for it. There's certainly no reason. You know, I was speaking to someone the other day that had a 1.5 kilowatt system and their energy use was pretty low. They were still wondering, oh, should I size my system up? Should I get a secondary system, especially for the evening demand? It really depends on how you use your energy. But a 1.5 kilowatt system was doing fantastic work for them over summer. Over winter, it wasn't quite enough to offset their bills, but for most of summer during the day, they weren't drawing much energy from the grid at all. So with the more efficient panels that are being produced now, you could put 4 panels up and it would be a 1.6 kilowatt system. Sounds pretty small relative to some of the mega all-electric homes that people might be building. But in the city of Yarra, work with what you have. And if you have a small roof, then don't let that affect your mindset at all.
Great, thanks very much, Lachlan. And we've got several questions coming through. So Sue asks, can you go all electric in an apartment? And is there any advice you'd give to those living in apartments? So Lachlan, you might want to give a perspective from the Metro Community Power Hub.
Sure. So you can go all electric. Certainly you don't need solar to go all electric. It goes a long way in terms of reducing bills. But the renewable content in the grid is much higher during the day. So if you were to go all electric and then shift as much as your use to the middle part of the day, you'd be reducing your overall emissions and you might be able to reduce your energy bills as well. In terms of getting solar for your apartment, there are success stories and there's certain organizations like Loom that are focusing on that. And I'm proud to say that the MCPH is also working towards developing a bit of a guide for people in apartments who are hoping to to achieve solar for their apartment, whether it's just for themselves or as a big shared system. So it's certainly possible, irrespective of solar. Hopefully by the end of June, we'll have that guide to share with everyone, and that I'd love to see that solar on apartments proliferate at that point.
Fantastic. Thanks, Lachlan. And I think that's also a call to get in touch with the Metro Powerhub if you have a more specific question about going all electric in your apartment. And there's a couple of questions relating to Nick's heating panels. Donna and Kath have both asked about your heating panels, Nick. So the questions are, can you tell us a bit more about the panels? Are they a standalone panel, or are they two panels connected to each other? And can you tell us why you chose this option? And did you compare them with other options before deciding?
Look, to be honest, didn't compare them with a lot of other things. The architect that we were working with recommended these ones. I mean, the particular brand that we've got is Nobo, N-O-B-O. Yeah, so, you know, I think they were one of the leading brands of these electric panels at the time when we built the house. So we sort of took her word and didn't do too much more research of our own. In terms of what they are, they're just like no, it's not two things stuck together. It's just like one thing that you just stick onto the wall. So it's just fixed at 2 points up against the wall. They're fairly light. You can get equivalent versions of them that don't affix to the wall but are actually on wheels, so you can sort of move them around the room. And if you're just in a small apartment or something and you don't have a lot of wall space but you want to move your heater around, that might be an option. As I said, we've just got them downstairs where our bedrooms are, and so basically each room has its own heater of varying sizes, right? For the bigger bedrooms, we've got bigger heaters. For like some of the small alcoves and stuff that we've got much shorter ones. So they come in a range of lengths, and you can kind of figure out how big a heater you should get for the size of the area that it's trying to heat.
Great, thanks, Nick. That's some great information about the heater.
Oh, and they've got really cool thermostats and timing functions as well. So we would often, I mean, when the girls were a bit younger, we would, you know, put the thermostat on 18 or 19 degrees, but we'd set it to only come on for, you know, half an hour before they went to bed, and then stay on for an hour while they're in their room reading, and then to turn off, because we don't need it running overnight. And just set it to turn on in the morning for an hour when you're first waking up and getting dressed or whatever, and then it just turns off automatically. So you can have lots of different sort of automatic timings set at different temperatures. So you can set it, and if it's warm enough, then it just doesn't turn itself on. So it's pretty easy to automate that way.
Yeah, that's great. So it helps with the efficiency as well. You're not using it when you don't need it or turning it on more than you need.
Yeah, exactly.
Kath asks, do you have any recommendations for electricians who can let us know what we need to change to induction in older homes? So that I might open that up to anyone who has any thoughts on that. Or it might be Lachlan, you might have some advice from the Metro Powerhub if not specific electricians.
Yeah, so I can't help with specific electricians, unfortunately. The induction question is a little involved. So there are often several tradespeople involved, obviously a plumber to cap the gas connection and an electrician for the installation. Generally, they do require their own circuit connected to the switchboard because of the load that they generate. So in certain cases, you may require upgrading your switchboard, just like with solar, if there's not space or it's a particularly old switchboard. What I would recommend is if you go to the My Efficient Electric Home Facebook page, there are a lot of people that have gone on this journey, and for the most part, I think they engage local tradespeople. That if you were to ask a question in that group, there might be someone in your area who can connect you with a tradesperson that's able to do that job. So it can be a little complex depending on your house, but it's sort of a question that you can only really have answered when someone's in there looking at your electrics.
Great, thanks, Lachlan. Yeah, really good advice. We hear about the My Efficient Electric Home Facebook group all the time. It seems really useful to a lot of people, so definitely recommend that. And that will also be in the links that we send around at the end of this session. So David has a question. David asks, doesn't it make more sense to have your electricity contract with a fossil fuel company if you have solar panels, so you're exporting renewable energy into the grid during the day, whereas if you have your contract with a renewable energy company, you are drawing that energy from the grid? Lachlan, do you want to have a go at that question?
Sure. So I'm also curious to hear if Nick has an answer. My general take on it is that ultimately, at any one time of the day, I think of the grid as like a big tank, and different generators are hoses going into the tank, and your consumption might be a little tap coming out of the bottom. Which retailer you're actually with does make a difference in terms of the amount of renewable energy that's being purchased, but your consumption is drawing from a grid that's made up of a certain amount of fossil fuel energy and renewable energy. And ultimately, your retailer isn't in control of whether you're using fossil fuel energy or renewable energy. I'm not fully sure I understand the question, but maybe Nick can shed some light.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's a good analogy around the tank. I mean, if your retailer is, say, AGL, and they run a big coal-fired power station in the Latrobe Valley, that doesn't mean that your power is coming from a big coal-fired power station in the Latrobe Valley. As Lachlan said, you're just taking whatever's going through, whatever electrons are going through the grid. I think the approach to take with retailer is choose one that invests in renewable energy. Because it's really about where the profits go. So if your retailer is invested in a whole bunch of fossil fuels, then they make a profit from having you as a customer, and those profits help back in their fossil fuel assets. If you're with a retailer that's connected more to renewables, then that's better. But on the other hand, if you go with a retailer who does have some fossil fuel assets and you're purchasing green power, so you're paying a little bit of a premium to get green power, then that still guarantees that it essentially guarantees that there is additional renewables being pumped into the system or being built as a result of that extra demand.
Yeah, fantastic. I think that was it was great to have both of your perspectives on that, Lachlan. It was really, I really like the metaphor of having the hoses going into the grid and then you're turning on the tap, and it's all, you know, in one big tank. And Nick, really great to hear your perspective on the value of your dollars as a customer, and that you're putting your money into a company that's then going to use that profit in a certain way. So if you're supporting a company if you're choosing a company that supports renewables, then that's where your money is going. And on that topic, if you want to find out more about choosing a green electricity plan, that's what our webinar is on next Thursday. It's the final one of this series. So if anyone's interested in that, please come along next Thursday at the same time. We're going to have to leave it there because we're out of time. There are a few questions that we didn't get to, so I'm sorry to those people who've not had their questions answered. If you have not had your questions answered, please do get in touch with the Metro Community Power Hub, and they are always happy to talk and answer your energy questions. And I want to say a big thank you to everyone for joining us tonight, and a huge thank you to our presenters, Tamara, Nick, and Lachlan. So yes, please do get in touch with the Metro Power Hub if you haven't had any questions answered. And if you have a complex inquiry, they can book you in for a free 30-minute phone consultation with the energy experts at Renew. So you will now have an email in your inbox with all of the links that we've shared tonight. So to the Metro Community Power Hub, to our Take Climate Action web pages, to the new Joneses, and some other resources that you'll see on your screen now. For example, the Victorian Government solar and hot water and heating rebates. And there's also a link to a quick survey in that email. So we'd love to have your feedback on this session. So for more information, get in touch with the Metro Community Power Hub. Check out our Take Climate Action web pages. There's a link there directly to the All Electric Homes web page, where you will find the recording of last week's Let's Electrify Yarra session, and this one will be up there as well soon. You can find out about choosing a 100% green power plan with our video tutorial. Please check out the new Joneses road trip. The other 9 episodes that you didn't see tonight are just as amazing and full of great tips, and you can download the Tick Off 10 checklist to do the actions. You can find out about Victorian government rebates for solar and batteries, hot water systems, heating, cooling, and electric vehicles. And we have a couple of events coming up. So next Thursday is our last one in this series. It's called Choosing a Green Electricity Plan, and you'll hear about the new Green Electricity Guide by Greenpeace, as well as about choosing 100% green power. And then we have an event coming up at the end of this month. Nope, it's not April yet, at the end of next month, which is about Solar Victoria's virtual power plant pilot program. So you'll find those links in your email so that you don't have to copy them down now, and you can register through those links. So thanks again for joining us tonight, and thanks again to our speakers. Have a lovely evening, and we hope to see you next week or at another event soon.